Well, how would you view the album in terms of the history of Magnum, with the benefit now of some hindsight? I mean, how does it rank for you in terms of your output over the years?
I've got to be truthful, it wasn't one of my favourite albums, and it wasn't a particularly enjoyable album to make, I have to say.
Were you under some pressure, Tony, at all from the record company, because you'd made Vigilante back in 1985, 86, and then, of course, this was the big album really in 88, but did you feel at that time that you were under any pressure?
I think the pressure came a bit later when we were doing Goodnight LA. That was when we were with Polydor International, signed to Polydor International, and they were very, very supportive to us. But then, after the Wings of Heaven album, Polydor International was broken up, and we got inherited to Polydor UK. And because they didn't sign us, I mean, that we were just inherited to them. I mean, they just looked at us and thought, what on earth is this band, I mean, what are they supposed to be? And they didn't, no one could pop us into a convenient sort of slot. And we didn't really have any, I wouldn't say we didn't have any support. We had how can I say? I don't think anyone liked the music, basically. Mm-hmm. And they had such high hopes, which were far too high, I believe, at the time. That was when the pressure came in. They were saying, this album's going to do 2 million, the other album did X amount. I can't remember how many it did. Wings of Heaven sold a lot of copies. And so the next album, it was, right, you've got to do this, you've got to... In fact, they wanted us to change totally so we could sell a lot of records, which Magnum was never like that. That wasn't... The whole point of Magnum was... There's people who like Magnum, I hope you do, like you're saying, you know what Magnum's about. There's a feeling about Magnum. And it isn't just a commercial thing. It's not a money-making machine, in other words.
Yeah.
We've been up and down lots of times in, like selling records, whatever it might be. But we've always stuck to our guns. But with the Goodnight LA thing, we were really pushed, and especially me, into a direction that I didn't want to go. But there was no other choice at the time. But after that, I just went stick it, and I just told them I didn't want to be on their record label anymore, and that's when we left. And we've gone downhill ever since. No, I'm joking.
Well, no, you're on the up now, aren't you? Definitely.
So it seems like we're always. We're like on an ocean, we're on a wave on the ocean. We're up 1 minute, we're down the next. I guess the rigors of playing in a band,
That's right.
Nothing you can. There's nothing you can really depend on other than people who really like the band, of course. So.
Well, I think also, Tony, the climate wasn't right, was it, in the early 90s? Because, of course, grunge came along. And,
that's true, yeah.
And your sound really wasn't what was wanted, and that was probably part of that, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
But, so going back to the Wings of Heaven album, so it wasn't that you were under pressure, it's just that in the scheme of things, you perhaps look back and you don't see that as one of your... Maybe did you perhaps think Storyteller's Night's more significant in that respect?
Yeah, probably. Although... When I listen back to those records, although I have good feelings about them, I know the sound of the record's not that good. I don't think they travel very well. But again, it's those things that when you've got sort of the luxury of time and you can look back at things, and sometimes you listen to something and think, wow, that's great, and sometimes you listen to it and think, what a load of rubbish, but I guess, it's the best you can do at the time, I guess.
Does that apply perhaps more, Tony, to records that have been produced for you rather than your own productions?
That is the whole...
That's probably the key, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad you said that. but that's really what I'm saying, I think.
Yeah.
I think what you get is my eye view of what Magnum is these days, and it's what I hear on stage, which is why you can hear a lot of guitar, a lot of drums, and like all the other bits and pieces. Everyone would have their own view, you know, on what a band would sound like. And unfortunately, with some producers, who I will not mention, of course, they like you to sound like they want you to sound, which is crazy, really. Which was, I don't think we were good enough to produce ourselves. But if we'd have had a good engineer, I think we could have come out with some good records anyway. But I mean, at the time, I felt like really, well, I still do feel really proud of all the stuff we've done. All the mail we get sort of confirms maybe they're not the best records or the best songs or the best whatever, but there's still a lot of people that really enjoy the music, which is so gratifying, you know.